Welcome back to part 2 of Writers Drinking Whiskey with Dana Ridenour. This episode, we're going to get into the writing. And so we're going to get to hear Dana read from Beyond the Cabin, her thriller featuring an FBI agent. And you didn't get to hear about her chatting about her time in the FBI. Definitely check out part 1. And then we'll get into some writing talk. So let's get right into it. We'll start smoking the drinks here, listen to a little jazz, and then you'll see my face. Your literary happy hour.
Fun show.
I want you to find the next author you're gonna love.
On a more serious note.
Welcome to the whiskey bar.
Threw my hands up like, you know what the...
Whatever happens, probably will.
So what are we drinking? Anyways, awesome. So let's dip into your writing here.
Okay.
So do you have something you can read for us today?
Well, I tell you what, I can read. I was debating between the second book and third book. I like the prologue from Beyond the Cabin because it gives you a little flavor for the character of Lexi and her fortitude, I guess. So I can read the prologue if that works for you guys.
That would be beautiful. And I'll speak for our audience.
Yes.
They would love that too.
All right. Well, you don't really need to know anything about it except for Lexi is an undercover FBI agent. And this is Beyond the Cabin. It's set in the low country of South Carolina, of course, where I live. And it's in the summer, so hot, steamy, swampy. So prologue. Briars tore at her flesh as she stumbled through the thick South Carolina swamp brush, the harsh vegetation cutting into her exposed skin with every new step and movement. Sweat covered her body, stinging her eyes and open wounds, blurring her vision. Her breath came harsh and ragged, lungs ready to explode. Despite her weakened state, adrenaline and fear kept Lexi moving. She hoped she was moving in the right direction, having been unconscious when she was taken to the cabin. Lexi ran through the low country swamp, trying to avoid the massive low-lying cypress stumps and fallen dead logs. Her visibility was no more than 20 feet because of the thick summer growth. A quick left turn put her on a dirt path. Which way? Which way? One way led to freedom, and the other back to her captor. Lexi chose a direction and pushed forward. The rutted path made running difficult, but slowing down was not an option. Every muscle in Lexi's body begged her to stop, but she ignored the pain. If she didn't make it back to her boat, the truth would never be known. Sweat poured into Lexi's eyes and obscured her vision. She didn't see the hole in the ground. She heard the pop in her right ankle as it twisted and felt the searing pain surge through her leg as she fell. She writhed in pain and briefly considered giving up. But she knew her captor would derive great pleasure from torturing her prior to killing her. Her heart pounded in her chest. She heard his footsteps quicken behind her, leaves and twigs crashing in his wake. A sudden, overwhelming feeling of dread came over her. Despite the nearly unbearable pain, Lexi pulled herself up and staggered forward. I've got to make it to the water. If I can make it to the water, then I can find my boat. Lexi heard 3 popping sounds behind her, the unmistakable sound of gunfire. She felt an excruciating white-hot burning sensation in the back of her left arm. She knew she'd been hit. She bolted back into the wooded area for better cover. Her abductor followed her into the woods. She heard him cuss as he stumbled and fell, but he continued his pursuit, spraying several more rounds in Lexi's direction. She heard the bullets whiz by her as she ran. She knew she couldn't slow down. Not only did she have to survive the gunman chasing her, she also had to find her hidden boat. Lexi had long given up on receiving help from the FBI. No cavalry was coming to rescue her. She was on her own. As she stumbled through the thick vegetation, a branch caught her in the side of the face, nearly knocking her to the ground. She paused momentarily when she heard the lapping noise of water caressing the shore and realized that she'd made it to the water's edge. Where did I leave the boat? She thought. Fuck, this all looks the same. I can't stay out here in the open for long. He'll find me. Lexi tried to wipe the sweat from her burning eyes, frantically looking for a familiar landmark. She looked left, right. Blood poured from the wound in her arm, the pain causing her to stagger. She recognized an old dead cypress tree off in the distance, her refuge if the boat was still tied to the tree. She knew she didn't have a minute to spare. She picked the most direct route to the cypress tree, and as she plodded through the marsh, she stopped to get her bearings. She felt a pull on her feet and legs, a strange sucking feeling. She began to sink. What the fuck? What is happening? Oh, no, 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 please no, this can't be happening. The harder Lexi struggled against the thick, sludgy pluff mud, the deeper she sank. Weak, bleeding, and up to her knees in unyielding pluff mud, she felt a large hand brutishly grab her shoulder. I guess this is how this ends. If you want to know what happens.
Very good. Can we just read the whole thing? Or you want mine just like I have like a couple hours. We can recreate the audiobook right now.
That's funny because the actress that read the books for the audiobooks is so good. And I'm not very good at reading my own work, but when I heard her read it, I was sitting on the edge of my seat going, oh, she's so good. And I loved listening to her. And she ended up reading all three. She did all three of them for me. And she was fantastic. Her name's Kate Morrison. And every once in a while, I'll have the TV going and she does the voiceover for like the Toyota ads and stuff. And I'll be like, oh, that sounds like my book.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Well, it was amazing when you, I just have the audiobook for my my short story anthology Without Expiration. And the gentleman who did it, I had gone through a bunch of auditions and things, and Darren Elliker was the gentleman who did it. Thank you, Darren, did a wonderful job. And it was one of those things where he read some of the stories and I wanted to go back and like rewrite them a little. Because like, well, like once you have someone act it out for you, you go, oh, like you get why playwrights have like the actors and then they go, oh, and they do some rewriting. Because like when you see someone interpret it, you go, oh, I didn't even know that was there. Like that's amazing. Like
I know, definitely. I felt the same way too. You know, when I heard her read all three of the books, it was the same way. It's like, ooh, I could have put something else there, but you know, it's done by then.
Right, sure. So, what compels you to write? Like, I mean, you have all these experiences, so I'm sure it's probably some degree of that. But what
Some degree of
you?
that. The first one, I always laugh and say I wrote the first book for therapy because I think I alluded to a little bit that when I came out from the undercover work, I wasn't all squared away. I started writing the first book and I was still actually working. So I was writing that on my spare time and I didn't realize it, but I was pouring out all of these thoughts and emotions and feelings out onto the page. And it was therapy. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was pushing out a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger built up and it was kind of all coming out on the page, which is really funny because the first time the editor looked at Behind the Mask, she kind of laughed and said, well, you know, you got a lot of anger on this page and you got a hatred for management. We need to tone this down just a little bit.
Was that the anarchy? Like, as you mentioned that earlier, like,
yeah, I think I had all of that. I still had all that anarchy stuff, you know, in my head and I was still feeling that. And then I was always fighting with management. I will admit I was one of those people that will ask forgiveness instead of permission. So I was always on somebody's radar.
Right. Sure.
So so I think the first book was written for therapeutic reasons pretty much. And when it came out, I had a lot of fun writing it. It was a learning experience because I didn't go to college and major in like journalism or writing or creative writing. I mean, I was police administration and criminal justice and psychology because, you know, I knew I wanted to go in the FBI. So I didn't think about a writing career.
Sure.
So the first book was a real learning experience. I mean, learning just formatting and things like that. And then I wanted to write a book about the Low Country because I love the Low Country of South Carolina. It's my heart, my soul. And I wanted to make the place a character for the most part. I wanted, when people read the book, I wanted them to feel like, yeah, okay, I know that place. I feel like I've been to South Carolina. I've been in the marsh. I feel like I know the Low Country. So that's kind of why I wrote the second book. And by that time I was addicted to writing and it was like this crazy addiction that won't stop. So we rolled all into the third book and I had to write a book and put my husband in there or he was never going to forgive me, right?
So the third book is the husband's book.
So the third book is Below the Radar and it's actually based on all the books are based on real cases. They're fictionalized, but they are based on real cases. And the third book, he and I actually did travel overseas together in an undercover capacity, and we did attend a terrorist training camp. So that is the premise for the third book, and that's all in there. And I will say anything in the book that's funny did actually happen, because Americans traveling overseas always do stupid stuff. So anything in the book that happens is funny was true. So
Yeah.
there's
Very good.
It's But so that's the Lexi Montgomery series, and that's the 3 books that I have out right now. I have a 4th book that I'm in final revisions for, but it is not an FBI book. I've completely changed genres, changed courses, and now I still scratch my head going, why the hell did I do that? Because I kind of had this down, and I decided to do something completely different. And,
that's beautiful. It's beautiful to challenge yourself. And
I challenge myself.
Very good. So, what's funny about that is, as you say it reminds me, like, editors are like, they're almost like teachers and then also therapists, right? Like, it's like we write this stuff and it's like therapy, and they have to like help us with that therapy aspect, but then also teach us, like,
Yeah, you need to tone this down, but I understand that, I understand your feelings.
Right. Very good. So when you're writing these books, right? And I think, like, all writers have it, but maybe you don't always like consciously think about it. But to you, like, and I get it can vary from writer to writer. It can vary from time period in your life to time period in your life. But what is the role of the writer in society, today? Like, how do you see, like, how you fit, right? As a writer, not as a person, but as a writer, like, how does that fit into the world?
You mean like how I want to be perceived, or or how?
Well, I guess maybe like, so you if you think about at different times, like Steinbeck writes a book and and uncovers things. It was Canterbury Row, right? And that's people realize like how awful that is. And so some people see a writer as a truth sayer, right? Like, you speak truth to power. I think of that quite a bit. Like, I'm just gonna say the truth as I see it. I might be wrong, right? Not necessarily factual truth, but I'm gonna say how I see the world. And you may disagree, but I'm gonna say that, and that's my role. But so as you write, you have the FBI books, and then you have the new book that you're working on that's completely different. Is it the same? And maybe it's different, but
it is different. I think when I was writing the FBI books, I've read a lot of FBI books and watched a lot of FBI stuff on television and stuff, and it's pretty much all wrong. And and so when I was writing the book, one of the things I really wanted to do was write a book that was that showed the psychological trauma that undercover agents have, but also to show the real FBI. Not glamorize it, not sugarcoat it, not make it look horrible, even though some of it I did, because some of it is horrible. But I wanted to show people what the FBI is really like, and I tried to keep it as factual as possible when it comes to that. A few of the things, of course, would get cut out because it's like, nobody wants to read about this meeting. That's boring. And I understand that, because
sure.
nobody wants to read about meetings and briefings and stuff like that.
I had one writer on that had written, it was a memoir about the time he had had tried to move to a Greek island. Dario Ceriello and his wife Linda, they tried to start a new life on this Greek island. And he had been a decorative painter. And so in the course of talking about it, I'm like, oh, was there anything, like, because it's a real story and it's so involved with your wife, with Linda, was there anything like she was worried about? There's one page she X'd out. And I'm like, oh, what was that page? And she just wrote yuck. I'm like, I have to know what's that page. He'd gone into technical details about decorative painting.
Oh gosh.
I'm like, oh, I thought it was something completely different, but yeah,
you thought it was something juicy.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess with the FBI books, that's kind of that was my main goal, is, to show the real FBI and, warts and all, as far as that goes. This is what it's really like. And I've had a lot of young people that are interested in the Bureau as a career read them because of that. They want to know, okay, well, what's the FBI really like? I'm like, well,
Right.
read the book, let me know, especially the first one. The first one is probably the most autobiographical of the bunch, even though it is. And the Bureau, of course, has to preview all my books before I publish.
Oh, wow.
It goes through pre-publishing review. So they're looking for trade secrets and anything that I'm not supposed to be giving up and things like that. And they've all got through. Okay. So, but I wanted to show the FBI as the real FBI and not this crap that's shown on television. And, it's stuff you see on television is just ridiculous. And
so it's not like Mulder and Scully.
No, but I was in love with Mulder. I was in love with Fox Mulder. Yeah.
Everyone was.
Oh yeah, when that show was on TV, I guess it was like the 90s, and I was going to the FBI Academy. I was up there in 95, and it was on TV, and it was my favorite show. But I didn't want everybody to know it was my favorite show because I didn't want to be the FBI nerd who watched X-Files. Right. So and at the time you didn't have TVs in your room. You only had like the lobby TV. So we're getting to X-File time. And I kind of wander by to see if there's anybody in the TV room, and I'll sneak in there and watch X-Files. It was packed. There's like 50 people sitting in front of this little TV to watch X-Files. So I was not the only X-File nerd. But yeah, I did love. But if you spent the entire hour watching Mulder and Scully do their travel voucher, that would have been pretty boring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a reason we need to edit it out at times. So
yeah.
So does that mean FBI is going to watch this show? Because if they do, don't look into my finances. Don't look at what's in the garage. All on the up and up. Completely.
There you go.
Awesome. So wonderful talking to you. I like to end every show with a life hack, a lesson, something that the audience can take with them that doesn't have to be a major thing, just making your bed in the morning, whatever it is, but something they can take with them that you've learned that maybe makes their life a little better.
It's very simple, but just breathing, deep breathing. I found if I get stressed and I get into a situation where things are starting to feel out of control, if I just go someplace, just step aside, take a few minutes, just do some deep breathing. I've been, in some type of martial art, like my entire life, since the time I was like 18 on. So, the breathing has always been essential to any kind of martial arts training. And that's the one thing that I've, kind of carried with me when things get rough and I feel like I can't handle things. I'll find a quiet corner and just breathe and just put it out of my, but you'd really be surprised how that makes a huge difference. I mean, you can clear your head. You can take 2 minutes to breathe, clear your head, and you probably won't say a lot of the dumb stuff that was about to come out of your mouth. Think it through.
Right.
Yeah, I've probably saved my own life so many times from not saying really stupid or really bad things because I take 2 minutes to breathe and then we'll address this. So,
that's very good. So I could save my life because my wife will probably kill me one of these days. I just need to breathe. Like before, like I'm gonna say that dumb thing. Just breathe.
Yeah, just breathe and think about what you're about to say.
Right. Very good. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dana.
Sure.
My pleasure having you on the show. It's been a wonderful time. And I will include links to your website and everything on the show notes. Is there any other way, anything else you want to impart on the audience of how to find you, get a hold of you while we're on the air?
My website. If you have any questions, I'm very accessible. I'm also on Facebook. Dana Ridenour, Dana Ridenour author. I'm on Facebook. Drop me a line. Happy to talk. Happy to answer any questions. Or get in touch with me on the website. The books are available in audiobook, ebook, paperback. They're all on Amazon or any independent bookstore anything can be ordered. So Yeah.
Sure.
And then if you have any questions at all, I love talking to readers. So just drop me a line and I'll answer.
Very good. Awesome. Well, thanks for that. And with that, I guess happy hour is over. And thank you
Well,
again. And
cheers.
cheers. I think I do have a little left. Cheers.